Today I'll be making chickpea noodle soup. We're going to start with our basic mirepoix vegetables, that is onion, celery, and carrot. That's going to be the base of our soup, and we have a nice spice profile here that I'll go over later. We're going to add garbanzos, veg stock bouillon cubes, and some egg noodles there at the end. And then I'll talk about some ways that we can kind of change the spice profile and the flavor profile of the dish, depending on what you like. So we're going to start off with our onion. I'm going to top it, split it in half, peel off this outer skin, and I'm saving this onion and a bit of this top onion here. In a bag with some other vegetable bits. And that's going to be for a veg stock. As soon as that bag's full, I'll have a nice veg stock to make at home, and that will be another video that I'll make. Like I said, today we're going to be using the bouillon cubes. So the way that I cut the onion is, after I've halved it, I follow the lines of the onion, cutting at an angle, working towards the center. So as you can see, I'm shifting my knife over to now face the other wall and cutting into the center. And if you do it that way, you don't have to do the horizontal cuts as well. I've just found this to be a little bit quicker and pretty consistent as well. I'm coming through and slice the rest of this. Let's do celery next. A few stalks here. I've already cut off the bottoms there and added them to my veg stock bag. Now I'm going to cut them into long strips. Okay, dicing. Alright. There we are. Celery done. Carrot. We are going to peel the carrot first. And I don't like to top or end any of my, I wouldn't say any, but I don't like to top and end a lot of my vegetables because it gives you something to, gives you a little more to work with. You know, I'm going to use the edge of this to kind of hold it while I work with it, and then once I'm ready, I'll get rid of the top and the bottom. Okay, so just putting them in kind of shapes that I can work with here. This is a pretty small piece here, so I'll probably only I'll make it 3 long pieces out of it. There we go. This one I'll get a little more. Once we have our flat pieces here, we're going to start cutting our strips out of them. Okay, now we're coming across and we're going to dice it just like the rest of our vegetables. Like I said, this is our mirepoix vegetable, which is the French trinity of vegetables that are the base of stocks, sauces, and stuff like that. Okay. Veggies, cut, ready to go. I can feel my pot's nice and hot, so I'm going to start adding my cold oil into it. We're going to probably do, I don't really measure the oil that I put in my pan. I kind of just wait until I see a nice coating on the bottom. We have a lot of vegetables, and they do have moisture in them, but we want to just get a nice hot oil base there. All right. You start to see a little bit of shimmering going on down there. You know that oil's hot, that pan's hot. We're good to go. Hear that sound? Good sound. All right. Stir, 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 stir. Get everything coated in that nice oil and then leave it. While that's happening, I don't know if you saw, but I did bring out some garlic cloves, and if you are watching closely, you were probably like, oh, why didn't he put those in at the same time as those other vegetables? Garlic cooks a lot faster, especially when you cut it nice and thin like I like it. So while that vegetable is sweating there, I am going to slice up this garlic. So a lot of ways to deal with garlic. I like to leave the tail on, like I was talking about earlier. It gives you something to kind of hold on to and work with. I just slice as close as I can to that end, and then that's done. So then you just have a little piece like that, and you know you got everything you need. I can already smell the onions. See some of this caramelizing that's going on in the bottom of the pan. It's very faint right now. I don't really want that in this soup, so I'm gonna go ahead and fight that with a little bit more oil and a little bit of salt, bring out a little bit more moisture, and hopefully avoid that kind of scorching at the bottom of the pan. We're getting there. Onions are getting a little bit more translucent, but they're still not all the way there yet. I am going to strain and rinse my garbanzo beans. I have a large can here, so I'm making a large soup. Check on our vegetables. Okay, we're not leaving anything in the pan, so we like that. Okay, vegetables are looking cooked. The onions are translucent. We can see through them. If you look in this camera here, you can see that those are pretty see-through there. They're ready to go. So we are going to add our garlic now. Okay, put our garlic in there. And now we want to be a little bit more active with our cooking process here. We've been letting our vegetables sweat, and that's great, releasing a lot of those sugars and water and stuff like that, incorporating flavors. Now that we have the garlic in there, it's a little bit more, we got to be a little bit more cautious. So I'm sticking with this, stirring it up. I can hear the sizzling in the pan even as I'm stirring and moving it around, so I know that it's hot enough to burn garlic if I leave it sitting even for a second. You don't want burnt garlic, but you don't want raw garlic either. So you do want to cook this stuff thoroughly. And yes, there will be some cooking time during the boiling and the oh wow. So had to switch burners here. Had a little bit of technical difficulties here in the kitchen. That's okay. We are going to improvise, adapt, and overcome. We're just going to use a small burner, and I'm going to let this soup simmer on its own for a long time, and then I'm going to cook my noodles. At this time, I'm going to start getting my veg stock ready. I am using this not chicken vegetable stock here. I prefer to get the low sodium ones. This soup is kind of getting bigger than I originally thought it was going to be, so I'm actually going to do 4. I got a little Pyrex out. I'm going to add my veg stock cubes to that, and I'm going to start boiling some water in our little tea kettle. Just enough hot water to dissolve these guys, whisk them up, and maybe a little extra hot water if I need to, clean out the dish and add the rest of that flavor to the soup, or if my soup just needs more water. So we'll see. I have my veg stock ready to go. This is highly concentrated here. This is basically double the amount of veg stock to the amount of water. So I am going to add this to my soup when I'm ready, and then I'm going to top it off with the rest of the water that I need to make that an appropriate measurement. Our garlic is starting to soften up. We're starting to get a little caramelization in the bottom of the pan there. I'm going to add a bit more oil. And I'm going to add my spice mix here. So like I said, this is fennel, cumin, and coriander all ground together. I'm going to add all of that in there and let that just bloom a bit with the hot oil and vegetables. And while that's blooming, I'm going to add my garbanzos as well, so they can kind of start absorbing that flavor. Get on the flavor train here. Add a little bit of this hot water to the garbanzos so that there's a little bit of liquid to kind of bring off the flavors that are kind of now stuck to the bottom of my pan. And yeah, all that steam right there, that's going to be what helps me bring out all that flavor. So we've peeled off all the flavor that was at the bottom of our pan now. Now we're going to bring this back to a boil here. So I'm going to refill this kettle completely so I can add a quart and 2 cups of liquid to this soup. Very nice smells coming off of this now. Our mirepoix vegetables, a little bit of that sweetened garlic, and then that spice profile coming through. Very nice now. I think we are ready to add our vegetable stock. Give that one more little whisk there. I like to use low sodium ingredients whenever I use soy sauce or vegetable stock cubes or anything like that, just because I want to have a little bit more control on it. I like to salt my food to a nice palatable taste, and then I like to usually use a little bit of nice finishing salt. So this is like large flake. I'll put it up here so you can see that. It's nice large flake sea salt, really nice stuff. And you can mess with all sorts of salts too. There's smoked salts and stuff like that, infused salts. A lot of fun, but like I said, unless you are using low sodium ingredients, it makes it just a little bit more difficult to control. Okay, I'm gonna add the rest of that hot water here. Now, if you're looking at this broth color here, you can see the vegetable stock, the flavorful liquid kind of floating around. It's not 100% of this liquid is obviously not flavored, right? I just added a quart of plain hot water to it. But that water is going to boil off as I cook it and simmer it. And that's going to leave a more flavorful broth. Okay, got this at a nice boil. I'm going to put a lid on this, and I'm going to let that coast 45 minutes or so. Just kind of cock it off a little bit there. So I got some of that steam coming out because I do want to reduce it a bit. So I need an opening for that steam to escape. So I'll see you back here in a little bit. It's been simmering now for about 45 minutes. Take a little taste here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to cook my noodles in my pot. I have these German egg noodles here. So 2 cups of this. Got a soup going right here. It's barely simmering. We're just going to bring it up to a boil. so we can drop our noodles in. While that's heating up a little bit, I'm gonna bring out some parsley. I always keep my parsley in a little glass, a little bit of water in it, and I keep that in the fridge, and it just stays really perky and nice. So I like that. Take off a couple. Good amount there. I want a nice soft boil. The harder your boil, the more you're going to cook off the starch from your pasta. So a little bit softer is going to mean a little bit more starch absorbency in that liquid, and that's really what I want right now. So I'm going to go a little bit lower and drop these guys in. All right, let's cook this pasta. You know, there's some people that don't like to chop herbs. Gordon Ramsay, he has said in a masterclass that I watched of his that you chop herbs, you leave half or more of the flavor on the board. I understand that sentiment, but what I also understand is that that only is happening if you're mashing your herbs. So you gotta have your sharp knife. And you really want to chop it with the front portion of your knife. This is going to be the sharpest, the finest, and the part that has the least weight behind it. The further back you go, the more of your downward weight is going into cutting the herbs. So use the tip of your knife, draw through it, and you will leave less flavor on the board. Work with the amount that works for you. Bundle it up into a tight little ball here. Like I said, use the front of your knife, right? Draw through it. There we go. And you can see the amount of green that's left on the board. It's very minimal. I'm waiting for my noodles to cook. I have my herbs chopped. I am pretty much ready to plate as soon as my noodles are done. All right, we're ready to plate our soup. I'm going to ensure that I'm getting all of the ingredients into the bowl before I start adding the broth. Just something that you can do to kind of think about an even distribution of ingredients. All right, I'm gonna top this off with some parsley. At this point, your soup has been cooking for an hour or so, and your guests, like my guests right now, are drooling over the scents that are wafting through the kitchen.